Self-love has become one of the most popular buzzwords in modern culture. It's splashed across magazine covers, promoted by social media influencers, and repeated in wellness seminars. Everyone seems to be talking about self-love, but what does it really mean? And perhaps more importantly, what doesn't it mean? For seniors, especially those navigating the challenges of aging, health changes, retirement, or loneliness, the concept of self-love may feel both attractive and confusing. Some think it's selfish, others dismiss it as a trendy idea, while still others embrace it without fully understanding the science behind it. In this first part, we'll dive into the most common myths about self-love and compare them with the facts that psychology, neuroscience, and real-life experience reveal. We'll also hear stories from older adults who have practiced self-love in healthy ways and discovered surprising benefits for their mental and physical health. Myth 1. Self-love is the same as selfishness. One of the biggest misconceptions is that self-love means putting yourself above everyone else. People often confuse it with arrogance, narcissism, or excessive self-focus. The fact, true self-love is not about ignoring others. It's about maintaining a healthy relationship with yourself so that you can engage with others from a place of strength and compassion. Scientific insight, studies in personality and social psychology review show that people who practice self-compassion, a form of self-love, actually display more empathy and are more supportive of others compared to those who are overly self-critical. Real-life example. Take Mary, a 72-year-old grandmother. For years, she believed that caring for her children and grandchildren meant sacrificing her own health. She skipped medical appointments, neglected exercise, and pushed herself too hard. When she began practicing self-love by setting small boundaries, like taking a daily walk or scheduling me time, she found she had more energy and patience for her family. Far from being selfish, her self-love made her a better caregiver. Myth 2. Self-love is just pampering yourself. Bubble baths, chocolates, vacations, these are often marketed as acts of self-love. While enjoyable, they barely scratch the surface of what genuine self-love is. The fact, true self-love is not about temporary indulgence, but about consistent choices that honor your well-being, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Scientific insight, research on sustainable well-being, published in the Journal of Happiness Studies, shows that people who build daily habits of self-respect, like eating well, maintaining boundaries, and getting enough sleep, experience far greater life satisfaction than those who rely on occasional treats. Real-life example. Consider Robert, a 68-year-old retiree. After losing his wife, he found comfort in constant snacking and TV marathons, thinking it was self-care. But he felt worse in the long run, lethargic, depressed, and isolated. With the guidance of a counselor, Robert learned to practice deeper self-love, joining a community walking group, cooking healthier meals, and volunteering at a local library. These consistent habits provided real healing, not just momentary distraction. Myth 3. Self-love means ignoring your flaws. Another widespread belief is that loving yourself means pretending you're perfect or refusing to acknowledge mistakes. The fact, real self-love includes honesty. It means acknowledging flaws without judgment and working toward growth. Self-love is about self-acceptance and self-improvement. Scientific insight, Psychologist Kristen Neff, a pioneer in self-compassion research, explains that self-love doesn't erase accountability. Instead, it reduces the shame that prevents people from making positive changes. In her studies, individuals who practiced self-compassion were more likely to take responsibility for mistakes and correct them. Real-life example: Janet, 70, struggled with alcohol use in her 50s and 60s. For years, she covered her guilt with denial. When she embraced self-love, she didn't ignore her drinking problem. She faced it. She admitted her struggles, sought help, and forgave herself. Today, she celebrates over a decade of sobriety. Her journey illustrates that self-love doesn't mean overlooking flaws. It means facing them with courage and kindness. Myth 4. Self-love is only for the young. Self-love is often marketed with images of young adults doing yoga on the beach or influencers posting glamorous selfies. Seniors may feel excluded or believe it's too late to learn self-love. The fact, self-love is timeless. In fact, it may be even more crucial after age 60. This stage of life often brings transitions, retirement, health challenges, or loss of loved ones that demand resilience and self-compassion. Scientific insight: a longitudinal study published in Health Psychology showed that older adults who practiced self-acceptance had lower stress levels, improved immune function, and longer lifespans compared to those who remained self-critical. Real-life example: Albert, 76, initially laughed when his daughter suggested meditation and journaling as acts of self-love. That's for kids, he thought. But after giving it a try, he noticed less anxiety, improved blood pressure, and a greater sense of peace. Self-love didn't make him younger, but it made his later years richer and more fulfilling. Myth 5. Self-love is about feeling good all the time. Some people assume self-love means constant positivity and ignoring negative emotions. The fact, true self-love embraces the full range of emotions. It's not about avoiding sadness, anger, or grief, but about responding to those emotions with compassion. Scientific insight: research on emotional resilience, published in the Journal of Positive Psychology, shows that people who accept their emotions without judgment recover faster from stress and report higher levels of well-being. Real-life example: Ellen, 69, lost her husband after 45 years of marriage. Friends encouraged her to stay positive, but suppressing grief only made her feel more isolated. When she practiced self-love by allowing herself to grieve, crying when needed, journaling her pain, and seeking support, she eventually found healing. Self-love didn't erase her sadness, but it gave her tools to navigate it with dignity. Myth 6. Self-love is easy. The culture of quick fixes suggests that self-love is as simple as repeating affirmations or buying a new product. In reality, self-love is a lifelong practice that requires effort. The fact, self-love can be challenging, especially for seniors who were raised in generations that valued self-sacrifice, discipline, or toughness over emotional care. Scientific insight: neuroscience research shows that the brain forms habits over decades, making it harder, but not impossible, to change patterns of self-criticism into self-compassion. With repeated practice, new neural pathways form, allowing older adults to genuinely shift how they treat themselves. Real-life example: James, 74, spent most of his life being his harshest critic. Whenever he made a mistake, he called himself names. At his granddaughter's urging, he began therapy and mindfulness training. Slowly, he learned to replace harsh self-talk with gentle encouragement. It took years, but today James says he feels lighter and more hopeful than ever before. Myth 7. Self-love is the same for everyone. Self-love is sometimes presented as a one-size-fits-all formula, but each person's journey looks different depending on personality, culture, and life experience. The fact, what works for one person might not work for another. Some people find self-love through spirituality, others through hobbies, relationships, or health practices. Scientific insight. Positive psychology emphasizes the concept of authentic happiness, which varies greatly between individuals. Self-love must align with personal values and circumstances to be meaningful. Real-life example. Anita, 65, found self-love in daily prayer and volunteering at her church, while Victor, 71, discovered it through painting and travel. Both approaches were valid because they aligned with what gave their lives meaning. We've examined the most common myths of self-love, that it's selfish, indulgent, effortless, or only for the young, and contrasted them with scientific evidence and real-life stories. The truth is clear. Self-love is not a trend, nor is it a luxury. It is a scientifically grounded practice that strengthens emotional resilience, improves physical health, and enhances the quality of life, especially in older adulthood. In Part 2, we will go deeper into the science behind self-love, how it affects the brain, the body, and long-term health outcomes. We'll also explore practical strategies for seniors to build sustainable self-love habits that lead to greater happiness and longevity. In Part 1, we explored the myths surrounding self-love and uncovered the truth about what it is and what it isn't. We learned that self-love is not selfishness, nor is it simply about pampering or ignoring flaws. It's a vital practice grounded in self-acceptance, accountability, and resilience. Now, in Part 2, we'll dig deeper into the science of self-love, how it influences the brain, the body, and overall health. We'll also provide practical strategies that seniors can use to cultivate authentic self-love in their everyday lives. Finally, we'll share inspiring real-life examples of older adults who transformed their well-being by embracing self-love. The science of self-love, how it works. 1. The brain and neuroplasticity. Self-love changes the way the brain functions. Neuroscience research shows that consistent self-compassion activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thought and emotional regulation. At the same time, it calms the amygdala, the center for fear and stress responses. Study evidence. Brain scans from the University of Wisconsin revealed that meditation practices linked to self-love reduced activity in the amygdala, lowering stress and anxiety. Why it matters for seniors. As we age, our brains become more vulnerable to stress-related damage. Self-love practices like mindfulness can protect cognitive function and slow memory decline. 2. Stress reduction and cortisol levels. Chronic stress accelerates aging, weakens the immune system, and worsens chronic illnesses. Self-love, through practices like positive self-talk and relaxation, lowers cortisol the body's primary stress hormone. Scientific data. A study in psychoneuroendocrinology found that people with high levels of self-compassion had lower cortisol levels and greater resilience to stress. Practical example. Seniors who practice daily gratitude journaling often report lower anxiety and better sleep, a direct result of reduced cortisol. 3. Physical health benefits. Self-love influences lifestyle choices that directly affect physical health. People who love themselves are more likely to exercise, maintain healthy diets, and keep medical appointments. Self-love reduces the risk of heart disease by lowering blood pressure and inflammation. Seniors who practice self-compassion are less likely to engage in harmful behaviors like smoking or excessive drinking. 4. Longevity and immune function. Positive emotions associated with self-love boost immune responses. Older adults who practice self-acceptance show stronger resistance to infections and even live longer. Scientific data. A health psychology study tracked seniors over 11 years and found that those with high levels of self-compassion had lower mortality rates. Practical habits to build self-love in later life. 1. Practice self-compassionate language. Replace harsh self-talk with gentle encouragement. Instead of saying, "I'm useless because I forgot that appointment," try, "I made a mistake, but I'm learning to be kinder to myself." Tip: write down 3 supportive sentences you would say to a friend. Then say them to yourself daily. ____________________________________________________________________. 2. Create healthy boundaries. Self-love means protecting your energy. For seniors, this may involve saying no to family demands that feel overwhelming or avoiding social groups that drain positivity. Real-life example. Linda, 70, loved her grandchildren but realized she couldn't babysit 5 days a week without burning out. By setting boundaries, she preserved her health and still enjoyed quality time with them. 3. Develop a self-love routine. Consistency matters. Build daily habits that affirm your worth. Morning affirmation. I deserve to live today with peace and strength. Physical care. Stretching, short walks, or gentle yoga. Emotional care. Journaling, prayer, or meditation. Social care. Calling a friend or joining a community activity. 4. Reframe aging as growth. Society often portrays aging negatively. Self-love reframes it as a stage of wisdom, freedom, and growth. Tip: make a wisdom journal where you record life lessons and accomplishments. This strengthens pride and gratitude for the journey. Scientific evidence. Older adults who focus on positive aspects of aging report higher levels of well-being and lower risks of depression. 5. Forgive yourself and others. Holding on to guilt, regret, or resentment harms emotional and physical health. Forgiveness is a powerful act of self-love. Real-life example. John, 75, carried guilt for decades over a failed business. Through therapy and journaling, he forgave himself, which reduced his depression and allowed him to enjoy his retirement. 6. Engage in meaningful activities. Self-love thrives when you connect with purpose. Whether it's painting, gardening, mentoring, or volunteering, meaningful engagement boosts mood and identity. Scientific data. Studies in positive psychology show that seniors involved in meaningful activities report fewer health problems and greater life satisfaction. 7. Celebrate small wins. Self-love is not about perfection, but progress. Celebrate achievements, no matter how small. Example: I walked for 15 minutes today despite my arthritis pain. That's a victory. Celebrating small steps builds motivation and strengthens resilience. Real-life transformations through self-love. Case 1. The widow who found strength. Martha, 73, struggled with loneliness after her husband's death. At first, she isolated herself and felt worthless. By practicing self-love through community volunteering, meditation, and healthier eating, she rebuilt her confidence. She now leads a support group for other widows. Case 2. The former workaholic. George, 68, retired but couldn't shake the belief that his value depended on productivity. He constantly criticized himself for being lazy. Through self-love exercises, such as gratitude journaling and mindfulness, he learned to appreciate rest and connection. His blood pressure dropped, and he felt joy again. Case 3. The survivor of childhood trauma. Elaine, 71, carried emotional wounds for decades. Therapy introduced her to the concept of self-compassion. Instead of punishing herself for past struggles, she learned to nurture her inner child. The result was profound: reduced anxiety, improved relationships, and a newfound sense of freedom. The ripple effect of self-love. Self-love doesn't just affect the individual, it radiates outward. Seniors who practice self-love often inspire younger family members to adopt healthier attitudes, strengthen social connections because they are less judgmental of others, improve their communities by showing compassion and resilience. The science is clear. Self-love is not a luxury, but a foundation for health and longevity. It shapes the brain, lowers stress, strengthens the immune system, and fosters joy in later life. For seniors, self-love may be the single most transformative habit you can embrace. It's not about perfection, pampering, or ignoring flaws. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a loved one. As we've seen in real-life stories, it's never too late to begin. Whether through daily affirmations, boundaries, forgiveness, or meaningful activity, self-love is a gift you give yourself, and through you, to everyone around you. So the next time you doubt your worth, remember, self-love is not selfish. It is the science of living well, aging gracefully, and embracing every chapter of life with strength and dignity.